With great power comes great responsibility. A well-known and profound quote from the Spider-Man movie. Lesser known, but arguably more important, is with great responsibility comes great power. And that's what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about power and why power is the key to creating a resilient workforce post-COVID. Did you know that in a recent survey, 93% of UK employees are complaining of mental well-being challenges? But more frightening, 86% of employees believe that their employers are part of the problem. And the instinctive response to that information as an employer might be to try and do more to help your people. And that is precisely the problem. Why? Well, we need to understand why people are feeling like this. And in the interest of time, I'm going to be very specific. Let's look at the way the government responded to COVID. Restrictions, lockdown, rules, loads of them. Some of them didn't make much sense, if you ask me, and some of them were quite distressing to follow. It involved being separated from loved ones, but people followed them. And as a net result, they became used to doing what they were told. They became used to having their choices taken away from them. Now, I'm not having a pop at Boris here, by the way. It's not easy leading a country in crisis, but the simple truth is that people are feeling disempowered. And when people have their choices taken away from them, they very quickly feel powerless and they stop thinking for themselves. And when they do that, they feel miserable and they blame their misery on other people and they expect other people to save them. And that might be the response as the employer, to try and help them. But the problem is that the more policies that you put in place as you try to feel your way out of COVID, no matter how well-meaning they are, the more solutions you try to implement, you're just taking away more choices from people. And the result of that is that they very possibly stay miserable and they blame you. Fortunately, I spent 20 years having my choices taken away from me because I followed orders in the military, but I was actually specifically trained for having my choices taken away from me. I'm talking about resistance to interrogation training, which is as grim as it sounds, by the way. You sort of run around getting chased for a couple of weeks and then you get interrogated and tortured. And they used a very specific tactic, which was called dislocation of expectation, which was designed to show you how powerless you were. And they would constantly move the goalposts on you to remind you that you couldn't do anything about it. So for example, they would say that they were going to free you and then they take you outside and do a mock execution. Or they would drag you out of your cage in the middle of the night and say they were going to feed you. And then they'd make you count pebbles for 4 hours. True story. I have never quite looked at a pebbly beach in the same way since. And it's a very effective strategy because it's taking your choices away from you. But I developed a very simple and potent tactic of my own. I knew that part of the interrogation was going to involve me being stripped down to my underwear. And I had a particularly ridiculous pair of superhero underpants that I was quite fond of. And I decided to wear these pants for my interrogation. And I took great delight and internal strength when sort of mid-jeer, my captors just kind of, their jaws just hit the floor and they just didn't know what to make of these pants. And I remember thinking, you can decide whether or not I eat today, but you don't get to choose what underwear I'm wearing. And the lesson that I want us all to draw from that is that people can actually withstand quite a lot of difficulty so long as they feel powerful, so long as they own their choices. So I think that's the key to leading your workforce through this crisis. They don't need to be babysat or pitied. They need to feel powerful. And how do you do that? Well, with great responsibility comes great power. Now, of course, you can't say, take responsibility. Hopefully you can see why that wouldn't work. So you have to create the conditions for people to take responsibility and own their choices. Where to start? How about this? Have a look at how many rules you've got in your business right now. How many of them do you actually need? How many of them could be taking away people's choices? And are they really worth it? if you took just one of them away, might they start thinking for themselves a bit more? It is going to be counterintuitive and it is going to be scary. I understand that it will appear counterproductive to give people more power, but it is the only way that people are going to recover from COVID. And it has to start at the top. It has to start with you. You have to make that first brave decision to choose to enable people to take their power back. And I promise you, if it is possible to feel powerful stood in your pants, it is possible to feel powerful just about anywhere. My name is Sarah Furness, and I'm here to help you take your power back. Thank you.